This is Linda, an old Yankee gardener. I'm out in the community garden doing a fall cleanup. This is my Napa cabbage, and it looks gorgeous, and I think I'm going to harvest it before I leave because I'm so fearful that the deer are going to eat it or something else. I got a little bug damage, but I'm going to make kimchi for my son-in-law, so he'll be thrilled. So I'm going to show you my setup in my kitchen for making kimchi. I went to the grocery store just to see what kind of cabbage they had, and they had some Napa cabbage that was $1.49 a pound, which I guess is okay, but it wasn't as green and lush and beautiful as mine is. Here is my Napa cabbage harvest. I got about 12 pounds, and these are green and crisp and beautiful. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to wash it really well, get all the dirt off of it. But look at how beautiful this is. This I grew myself. So the process is to wash all this cabbage and separate it out, and then salt it. After you salt it, you let it sit for a couple hours, and every time you go by the bowl, you kind of massage it a little so the water comes out of the cabbage, and the cabbage will wilt down a little bit. So these are the scallions, carrots, and radishes. I'll just do the radishes for my garden. Fish sauce I use. I don't know what all those words say. The English word says fish sauce. I've used it before. I pick it up at my Asian market. So that has always worked well for me. But I suppose you could just use this kind. I mean, that's fish sauce too. So that you can get at your local grocery store. And then this is the pepper paste I use. Notice that it says mild. My son-in-law does not like things that are too hot, and I'm, making it for him, so I'm going to use this one. My recipe calls for 10 tablespoons, but I'm just going to use 5. But I will post the recipe for that. And then here's the salt I use. I use kosher salt. You want to use just plain salt. I'm going to use a half a cup to salt all this cabbage. And you don't want to use any salt that's got any iodine or anything else in it. So stick to the kosher salt. You can use sea salt. You can use Pink Himalayan salt, whatever you normally use. And then over here I've got some jars set up. It's kind of hard to see because they're see-through. But you can, after it's fermented, it's going to be soaked in the salt for 1 or 2 hours, and then you're going to put the vegetables and the spices in, mix that all up, and then it's going to be fermented in jars for about a week. You can test it after a couple of days to see if you like the flavor of it, and then after it's right where you like it, then you put it in jars and put it in the refrigerator. So I've got some half-gallon jars here. These big ones are half-gallon ones because I got a lot of cabbage. But you could also put it in quart-size, pint-size jars. This little thing is a glass weight. So what you do is you put the cabbage in your jars, and there should be liquid there because you've massaged the cabbage and the liquid comes out. So that goes in the jar too. Make sure you do not leave out the sugar that's in the recipe. The recipe calls for a few teaspoons of sugar, and that sugar is not to sweeten the kimchi. It's to start the fermenting process, so don't leave it out. So these glass discs, you can buy these on Amazon. They're just weighted, and what you do is you put the kimchi in the jar, you push it down as far as it goes so that the cabbage is covered with liquid, and then this fits in the jar, and it keeps everything weighted down so that all the food is below the level of the liquid. Sometimes I will put an extra cabbage leaf on top of the whole thing and then put this glass thing on here. And then you can put a cover, or you can put a coffee filter on the top. You want to let airflow happen because of the fermenting process. It's going to bubble. But you don't want bugs and things in there. So you could put cheesecloth, you could put a tea towel, whatever you've got. So I'm going to get busy cutting up all these vegetables and salting down the cabbage. And then I'll bring you back in a little while and show you what I got. This is what the cabbage looks like after a couple of hours. I had 2 full bowls, full to the brim. Salted each one with about a half a cup of kosher salt. And as you can see, it's really wilted down. I get a little closer so you can see. This one's in a colander, so you're not going to see any water. But this one over here is in a bowl. And you can see how much water I've got out of that. So that's the first step with the cabbage. I'll rinse that and put it in one bowl and then add the vegetables that I've all processed and mix in the spice and then put it in the jars. Let it ferment about a week, maybe 2 or 3 days, and taste it, see what it tastes like. Here's my ingredient tray. I've got some ginger, and I've got my little ruler, so we've got a 3-inch piece of ginger. I'm only going to use about a 1-inch piece. And then I've got some garlic cloves, and I will use this to grate the garlic. Then I've got some sugar, 2 teaspoons of sugar. And this is the hot pepper paste, and I've got about a 1/4 cup of that, so that would be about 4 tablespoons. And fish sauce, so the recipe calls for 5 tablespoons of fish sauce, so that's a 1/4 cup plus a tablespoon, something like that. But we'll see how it all goes together, and I'll bring you back when I've got all that stuff done. Okay, this is the kimchi all made, and I wanted to show you the liquid that's in the bowl here. And then I put it in 2 half-gallon canning jars. Make sure you wash them out thoroughly. You don't want any foreign bacteria getting in there. So I just use my canning jar funnel to put the kimchi in the jars, and then I have this sauerkraut pounder, and I just squish it down, and then the liquid is supposed to cover the kimchi. So you can see in there's the liquid. And what I'm going to do is make sure both of these jars are, as full as I can get them. Squish it on down, and then I'll put a cabbage leaf on top and one of those little glass weights to make sure that all the vegetables stay below the liquid in the jar. And then I'll let it go for about 2 or 3 days. Taste it, see if it's where I like it, and then refrigerate it after that. So that's all I got for you on the Napa Cabbage harvest and the kimchi creation. If you liked what you saw or learned something, hit the like button, hit subscribe. Leave me a comment. Tell me if you've made kimchi and what your recipe is. And like I always say, happy gardenings. I'll see you in the next one.